Here we go. Tuesday, February 11th, 2015. Welcome to today's monthly motivational YouTube chat. Here we are, and tonight's topic is love. For those of you who have never been before, the way I do these is I will talk for probably about 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes on the topic of the night, which is love. And then we will open it up for the last half for question and answers. Question and answers is pretty open. You can ask me something about the topic we just discussed. You can ask me something about something else if you like. What I encourage you all to do is to take notes while we're doing this. There might be things that pop up that you want to come back to. Please refrain from writing your questions in the comments. I will announce when it's time to ask questions, just because I only have a small bar, and so when I see them scrolling, I get a little distracted and I lose my train of thought very easily. So you're doing me a favor by writing your questions down on a piece of paper. And then when I ask for questions, we can address that then at that time. Okay? Let's see. Anything else? A couple of quick announcements. 1 billion steps. The signups are going on. For those of you who have not heard about this, the challenge is to try to get a cumulative total, meaning as many people as participate, to walk a combined 1 billion steps in the month of March. There is an event page on Facebook on the 1000 Challenge page. Please check it out. Please sign up for it and invite your friends and family to participate as well. That'd be fantastic. We're going to need a lot of people to get to 1 billion steps. What else? What else? Is there any other updates? No. I think that's it. I think that's it. My inspiration behind this chat was because Valentine's Day is coming up. And since Valentine's Day is kind of a big love day, I thought we'd talk about love. So let's get right to it. Love. What is love? Now, let me preface tonight by saying that some of what I will give you is going to be philosophical. Some of it's going to be from psychology. Some of it is going to be a little romanticized. When I speak of love, and if I take some of the romanticism out of it, it's not because that's not what I believe necessarily. It's because I want to have a practicality when teaching. And I say that because my friends will give me a hard time because they know that if there's a chick flick on and I watch it with them, I'm always the one that ends up crying. Oh. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer because of the Buffy Angel love story, and I was actually in Santa Monica a couple weeks ago and walking on this path I'd never been on, and I came upon the spot and I realized, there's something familiar here. And then I realized what it was. It was this place they filmed this scene in this episode of Angel, when Angel, if you guys haven't seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel's a vampire, and Angel is able to be human, and he's able to kiss Buffy in the sunlight. And I saw it, and I had this total nerdy, geeky moment. I was like, oh my God, I just read the fucking Angel thing. So I like that stuff. I'm into that stuff. I'm into happily ever afters and whatnot. And I'm also into the practical side of understanding it, because I think if we approach a topic as important and powerful as love from a practical side, what it does is it helps us to learn how to bring more of it in, and it gives us a better control of it. Because a lot of times we will use love and we'll give love a label as it's almost something that's out of our control. The danger with that is, and it sounds nice and romantic and warm and fuzzy, the danger with it is that when it's out of control, we can often feel powerless. And that's a very scary place to be, especially when we're talking about love in the context of a relationship, okay? So what is love? Obviously, there's different types of love. There's romantic love between two people. There is familial love, meaning that there's a love for like your kids, love for your sister, love for your brother. There is love of friends, which is a different kind of love than you might have for your mom or for your spouse. There's love that comes from pets, right? Dogs are a great example of love. And likewise, the love that you reciprocate towards your pets. So there's all sorts of different types of love. What happens with love is when we say the word love, we don't usually distinguish what type of love we're talking about. And so we have all these different types, right? Nobody is going to, well, I can't say nobody. Most people will not say that they love their sister, their husband, their brother, their dog, and their child all exactly the same. They might love all of them very much, but they also love them all very differently. Okay? Yet we use the word love to describe all of them. Make sense? So we use the word love to describe all these different types of love. And so it's really important when we're talking about a topic like love, or you're talking about a topic like love in your own life, that you're being clear with yourself what type of love you're discussing. And also when we're interacting with people in our lives, what type of love we're expecting from them, right? Oftentimes we might have, let's say we have a not so great relationship. There's some relationship struggles with our partner, our romantic partner, but we have a really strong relationship with our sister. And if we expect the same type of love from our partner that we get from our sister, it may cause problems. The partner may feel like that they can never do enough because they can never be the sister. And so really quick, it can make a complicated dynamic. I have actually I've worked with clients before where they've had these relationship dynamics come into play where the relationship was having a hard time. One person in the couple was really close to one of their siblings, and what it did was it left the other person feeling distant and not there. And so the other person would describe it as saying, well, I get all this from my sibling. Why should I put in the effort with my partner? And what that tells the partner is basically that they are no longer a primary source of love for this other person. Okay, so because they've leveraged their siblings' love in the romantic kind. So it's really, really, you guys, really important when we talk about love to understand that there are different types of love. Okay, this is a lot to go into and we won't have time tonight, but I want you to really walk away with tonight with some real thinking points about how you can apply these things to your own life and the relationships in your life, the relationship with yourself, the relationship with your friends, your family, and so on, and your romantic partners. Because if we start to look at love and acknowledge that there's a different type of love for each one, it cuts down our likelihood of, what's the word I'm looking for? Transposing one type of love on the other. Does that make sense? Another thing we often hear with love is being in love versus love. Do you love someone or are you in love with someone? That's the way we'll hear it. I have definitely heard this before. Are you in love with someone? Are you in love with someone? Are you in love with someone or do you love someone? Implying that there's a difference. And there is, because oftentimes we will say we're in love with someone and we talk about our romantic partners. We love someone and we love our friends or family, etc. Those are usually the way we distinguish it. We talk about in love as with a romantic partner. We talk about just love and just loving somebody as we would with a friend and family member and so forth. What's the difference, though? The biggest difference between love and being in love, and this is something for couples, for anybody here who's in a relationship, a romantic relationship, or wants to be in a romantic relationship, I really, really implore you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say, because this can be a huge game changer for your relationship. Couples will fall out of love. It happens. And sometimes when couples fall out of love, they will say, I no longer am in love with my partner. Maybe we should split up. Maybe we should get a divorce, etc., etc., etc. Where this comes from, I don't know. It could be fed through us through the romanticized version of it that we see in movies and cartoons where it's all about falling in love and then living happily ever after. It could be, and I think that probably fuels some of it. The thing is, the difference between being in love and loving someone, I'm trying to build up suspense here, it comes down to one thing and one thing only. It comes down to your perception of that person. How you choose to perceive somebody, how you choose to see someone at any given moment, at any given time, is going to ultimately dictate how you feel and experience that person going forward. You can be extremely, how many of you have been in relationships where in one moment you are completely mad at your partner? You literally are at the point where you're so frustrated and pissed off with them that you want to rip your hair out or rip their hair out. And you look at them and you literally are shooting daggers because you're just looking at them and thinking, how dare this, no. And then 10 minutes later, you're kissing them, you're making up, you're telling each other how you love each other. Why? Because how you chose to perceive them changed like that. You have a huge emotional shift from one side to the other, and that comes from perception. So when people find themselves saying, well, I'm just not in love, I've fallen out of love with my partner, it's not so much that you've fallen out of love, it's that you started to look at them differently. You started to look at them differently, and those differences are what you've started to focus on. The things that you used to love or made you fall in love with them might still be there, but you're not focusing on them anymore. Instead of recognizing the kindness or the compassion that they show, which used to be a huge, huge thing for you, you're now focusing on how they don't take the mail out, they don't take the trash out, they don't walk the dog when they say they're going to. And while they're little things, these little things that we start to focus on can radically shift the focus of how we view someone, because we can start to paint the picture of maybe they're disrespectful of us, maybe they don't care enough to do these things for us, right? It's our perception changes. So the difference, you guys, the difference between being in love and love is how you choose to see someone. If you're in a relationship and you find yourself in a place where you feel like you're not in love with your partner anymore, you falling out of love, whatever it is, start looking at them in a different way. Start looking at them in a different way, and you'll start to experience something different with it. Which leads me to the third point I wanted to talk with you all tonight, which is how to bring in an abundance of love into your life. This all comes on down to an empowering perspective. The perspective you choose to view yourself from, the perspective you choose to view your partners from, the perspective you choose to view anybody in your life from is going to decide on the amount of love you allow into your life. There is no shortage of love in the world. Okay, I want you guys to really pay attention to this. There is no shortage of love in the world. What there is a shortage of is empowering perspectives. What there is a shortage of is the benefit of the doubt. What there is a shortage of is a desire to focus on love instead of a desire to be right or a desire for the other person to be wrong. There's no shortage of love. What there is a shortage of is the empowering perspectives of how we choose to view those people that we do love. I really hope you guys write that down and commit it to memory. If you want to bring in more of an abundance of love into your life, whether it's self-love or if it's love from somebody else or love towards other people, you have to choose in a more empowering perspective. If you want to bring more abundance of love into your life and you walk up into the mirror and the first thing you say is you look at yourself and say, boy, when I get this close to mirror, look at how my brow furrows, and boy, these HD mirrors really bring my freckles out. Oh, and when I do that face, it makes a vein pop out of my head. Oh, I don't look attractive. I hate myself. Is that going to bring a lot of love in your life? No. Or you could do this and say, wow, when I get really close to the mirror, these HD mirrors are really cool because it allows me to make a dramatic point like this when I'm talking on a YouTube chat. And everybody gets to see the little unique freckles and veins that make me me. That make me me. How cool is that? And I love being me, and I love that I have the opportunity to do that and to show that to people. That's an empowering perspective. And how am I going to feel about myself after that? Radically different. Radically different. If we have a partner, and I love using the examples of taking out the trash. Those of you who have taken 6 weeks to Greatest You with me, or who have actually worked with me in relationship programs through coaching, know I like to use taking out the trash as an example, because it's something it's been joked about since the dawn of time, and we all use it, right? So somebody taking out the trash, they don't take out the trash, the person chooses to view them as being disrespectful, not caring, not loving them enough, all those types of things. Is that a really empowering perspective? And if they're looking at their partner from that perspective, is there going to be an abundance of love in the relationship? Probably not. In fact, I would be willing to bet that if they're focusing that much on the trash, there's probably some other things too that are having similar experiences, which are creating a vacuum of sucking the love out of the relationship. However, if they were to choose a more empowering perspective and say, you know, he or she didn't take the trash out, but I bet you there's a really good reason why. And whatever that reason is, I'm sure when they get to it, they're going to get to it. They might just need a little reminder from me. And I'm happy to do that because I know my partner loves me so much that they would never intentionally do anything to be disrespectful to me. In fact, they probably don't even know that I feel it's disrespectful. Maybe I should take it upon myself to go and tell them that. And so that way we have an opportunity to communicate and grow closer together as a couple. If you guys want to bring an abundance of love into your life, you have to decide on a more empowering perspective to live your life from, whether it's with yourself or with anybody else. There is, you know, people a lot of times they like to throw around terms like unconditional love. Couples love to do this. I love my partner unconditionally. Okay, no, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't need to justify it. Unconditional love, you guys, the closest examples I can think of unconditional love in our day-to-day life are typically the love a dog has for its owner, and the love that a newborn mom and a baby share can connect with. But even then, there can be some sort of dependency on it because babies are so dependent on their moms for food and nourishment. And I'm not saying that to diminish the idea of unconditional love. What I'm saying is a lot of times that we use a term like unconditional love to raise ourselves above the reality of what's going on. And so then we don't see, I love them unconditionally, but he does this. I love her unconditionally, but she does that. Right? That's not unconditional love. Whenever you're saying, I love them unconditionally, but what that but is going to mean is that you're going to see them in a less than empowering perspective. Unconditional love means that you love without a condition of anything in return. If they lay there all day with their feet up, and they never take the trash out, and they don't say a word, and they sit there with the clicker, and they just click, 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 and you look at them and you say, boy, he is amazing and perfect as how he is. Boy, she is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. She's flawless. That would be more of a sign of unconditional love. But if you look at them and you find yourself going, God, I just wish they'd do something. There's a condition there. Okay, so let me say this again, you guys, and I really want you to get this down. Please, 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 please take this to heart. To bring an abundance of love into your life, there is no shortage of love. There's a huge shortage on more empowering perspectives and benefits of the doubt. So if you want to bring more love into your life or into your relationships or anything like that, you have to decide on a more empowering perspective to view whatever is going on in the person, the relationship from. And if you don't, there's always going to be a void of love. Okay? So quick recap. What is love? There's different types of love. There's family love. There's love we have for our pets. There's love we have for our kids. There's romantic love. There's even love we have for ourselves. And these different types of love, all of us will say, or almost all of us will say, that the different types of love are different for different people, right? We don't love our sister the same way that we love our wife, most of us. Yet, we find ourselves using the word love to describe all of them. We put them all under this big umbrella love, yet there's not the same expectations for different roles. So this can lead to a lot of strife, a lot of conflict when we're not clearly communicating to ourselves and to the other people what type of love we're talking about and what specifically we require that love. So it's really, really important that you're clear with yourself what love is to you. Being in love versus love. Being in love with someone versus loving someone. The difference in that comes down to perspective. How you choose to see somebody in a moment, and typically this applies more to relationships. We use the term being in love in a romantic context. How you're going to choose to view someone at any moment in the relationship is going to be how you feel about them. You choose to see them in a not so great way, you're probably not going to be in love with them at that moment. You choose to see them in a really powerful, positive way, guess what? You're probably going to be in love with them at that time. Okay? Can being in love and loving someone change moment to moment? Absolutely. Because our thoughts and emotions, how fast can they change? Like that. Like that. So remember that if you find yourself in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship and you feel like the love's gone, or you feel like you guys aren't connecting like you used to, or you're falling out of love, look at the perspective you're looking at each other from. Look at the perspective you're looking at your partner from. Change the perspective and you'll change the emotions. Okay, and lastly, if you want to bring an abundance of love into your life, I've said this probably 10 times now, and please listen to me again if you haven't got it yet. If you want to bring an abundance of love into your life, you have to decide on a more empowering perspective. You have to. There's no shortage of love, but there is a huge drought-like shortage of empowering perspectives and benefits of the doubt. The great thing about these are, it doesn't have to be that way. There is an infinite amount of empowering perspectives that lives on in here, and there is an infinite amount of emotions that will help fuel and justify these in here. You just got to be willing to use them. You want to bring more love into your life. When you lean forward and look in the mirror like this, instead of seeing the flaws, you got to see the great stuff. You got to see the great stuff. And if you don't see it, make it up. Find something. Tell yourself there's something. There was a time, you guys, for a very long time, I did not like at all what I saw in the mirror. And it doesn't mean I like what I see in the mirror every time. But overall, I like the person looking back. And those moments that I have where I just say, oh, they're just moments. And usually when I find myself going, I kind of laugh at myself and say, you look really funny when you do that. That's cool. Cool. Really helps. All right, good. That's awesome. Makes sense. Let's see what you guys got for questions. I'm just going to adjust my little windows here so I can better see. Oopsie. How do you stay positive towards your partner when it seems like he's not listening? I would ask. You know, you're in a partnership with somebody. You guys have probably shared some very intimate things. So asking somebody to make sure they're listening is not. And if you ask and say, hey, are you listening? And okay, first of all, before I go any further, how you decide to ask is crucial. If you say, oh, you're not even listening, are you? Odds are people are going to react and say, oh yeah, I am. You need to ask in a way that connects to their heart, connects to the way and the reasons why they fell in love with you, why they're with you to begin with. So asking in a way of saying, hey, listen, this is really important to me. I love you enough and I love us enough to really tell you this stuff. And I hope that from my heart, I hope that you'll listen to me and understand where I'm coming from with this. Okay, so how you ask the person to listen is really crucial. And then when you start talking to them, tell them why it's important. Tell them why it's important. A lot of times humans, we we always have meaning behind everything we say, and then we assume that our partners are going to just get that meaning, that they're going to mind read us, but it doesn't work that way. So you need to be clear with your partner about what the meaning is behind it. Why is it important for them to listen to you? Why should they pay attention now? Why is now more important for them to pay attention than it would have been maybe at another time when it wasn't as important for them to pay attention? Does that make sense? Do you practice meditation? Do you believe it can improve someone's life? I am not a regular practicer of meditation. I like to say my sleepy time is my, oh, you know what, hang on, that's not true. I look at my exercise time as my meditation time. I definitely look at my exercise time as my meditation time. When I am lifting weights and I'm working out and I am barely wheezing because I'm trying so hard to breathe, when my muscles are burning, I am not thinking about anything else at that time other than that. And so that is the time during the day where I really empty out and rejuvenate myself. So that to me is my meditation. Can somebody's meditation, whether it's exercise or whether it's traditional meditation, can it improve someone's life? Absolutely. It's been around for thousands of years. There are countless studies done on it, and I've never seen one negative thing about meditation, other than people will say it's hard to get used to meditating because it's hard to sit still, it's hard to empty your mind. It's one of those things, practice makes perfect. I have tried to do this traditional sit still meditation and it's been hard for me. If I have somebody guide me, I can do it better, but if I'm doing it on my own, my mind gets going too crazy. Exercise, I can zone out like that. Great questions. Let me, oh shoot, I overly scrolled. In your opinion, why do people cheat on their partner instead of just getting out of the relationship they're unhappy with? There is, there's 100 ways I can answer that. A couple of ones off the top are people's values are different. People's values are different. Cheating and monogamy is one of those ones, and it's a big one that people will go into relationships being assumptive about. Being assumptive that because they value monogamy that their partner is going to, when their partner may not. So that's a big one. There's also going to be emotional disconnect. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. And that can tie into values too, is just partners are looking at themselves as not as in love, and they're not choosing the more empowering perspective to see their partner in. If our partners saw us all in the best possible light that they saw us in, that makes them the most star-crossed in love with us, there probably would never be a lot of those challenges or problems. The problem is that we're all in relationships with humans. And because we're all in relationships with humans, we're all going to do this from time to time, yours truly included. Okay, I teach people this. I work with couples with this. I work with individuals on how to improve their relationships. And yet I find myself doing some of the same things that I teach people not to do or to do better because I'm human. I'm human and I have my own patterns, my values, everything else that comes in. And when my emotions start to get really charged, I may not be thinking about it in the way I would right now. So there's lots of things that come into it. But more often than not, it's going to be value systems different. It's going to be just not seeing them in the most empowering perspective. And then because of that, it filters in all the other stuff, the emotions, the distractions, the feeling lonely, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is an empowering statement we can all use to say to ourselves in the mirror? I'm awesome. I like I'm awesome. It's going to be different for different people. If you have different belief systems, it can be different. I usually won't just say awesome. I'll put a cuss word in front of it. I might use the F word in front of it. But in my belief system, I believe that the F word is really one of the most powerful words we can use when it's used in a really constructive way. Some people aren't going to say that. They're going to hear a word like that and they're going to think it's derogatory, it's disgusting, it's whatever. For me, I think there's way worse words than saying like fuck or shit. I think the words like can't, or I'm unable to, or I cannot, I think those are some of the dirtiest words we have in our language, because what those do to our life is 1,000 times more detrimental than a I'm fucking awesome will ever do, in a negative way. Okay, so that's just my belief system. And so you have to look at your own belief system and decide on what's going to be most effective for you. But say something that is just puts the in you, gets you fired up. That's what you're looking for. when you're initially going to put yourself out there to date, would you be more inclined to put yourself out in the virtual world first, or actually try and put yourself in situations where you can meet someone? You know, so I'm not sure if you're asking me personally or what advice I would give. What advice I would give to somebody is to go with where they feel the most comfortable starting with. For me personally, I don't see myself doing the virtual world. It's just it's not. I don't want to put my I wouldn't put myself in a virtual world because I would want to be with somebody who is comfortable being single. And when sometimes the way I look at the virtual world is it's people who are really trying to find a couple of them. And that's one way I look at it. And I'm not saying that's true. It's just my own perception of it. It's my own beliefs, right? And I'm not in any way saying that's true for anybody else. It's just for me personally. So for me, I'm going to trust in the fact that it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And that it's going to be something more of where I'm not necessarily looking for that person, but I know in my mind what I want to find, and that we will find each other when the time's right. That's, again, my belief system. I don't know if that helps. My boyfriend is really jealous. His friends are spying on me. After work, I have to come straight back home, and he gets really mad when I miss his call. I never gave him any reasons to be jealous. So in a situation like that, what I would ask then is, why are you in that relationship? I wouldn't even address anything with the boyfriend. I would ask you specifically, why are you in that relationship? What do you get out of the relationship that makes you feel you need to stay in it? And what do you get out of the relationship that is going to bring you to a place where you're going to be in a talk like this and asking questions about this? I think if you were to look a little deeper about what you really get out of the relationship, you might see that it might not be the relationship you want. I don't think you want to. I'm guessing. I'm going to make an assumption here, so please forgive me if I'm wrong. But I'm going to assume that you're not going to want to be you don't want to be in a relationship where somebody's spying. They have spies out there where they expect you to be on call 24/7, that you have to be like this and right there, and that they don't trust you, because that's essentially what that is. It's not trusting. I'm assuming you'd want to be in a relationship opposite to that. So my assumption would lead me to believe then that perhaps the reason you're still in the relationship is because you'd rather be with someone than alone, and there's a fear of being alone if you got out of the relationship. However, if that's the case, and again, this is me making an assumption, you have to ask yourself, would you really ever feel more alone than you do right now? Because I cannot imagine that his behavior is making you feel not alone. And again, if that's way off base, please forgive me if I'm wrong. That is just what my gut instinct said when I read what you said, and that's just kind of what I went with. What are you doing for V-Day, aka Singles Awareness Day? So Valentine's Day, I am going to, I don't know, I'm going to be coming back from Las Vegas. So I'll spend the first part of it traveling. And then I will probably make some dinner. A few friends have talked about visiting, and if they do, I will make dinner for the lot of them. There is a place in town, I think they still do it, that makes heart-shaped pizzas, so I was thinking about getting some of those. And we'll probably play some ridiculously silly games, which will be a ton of fun. And that will be how I said, and then maybe we'll just, if everybody gets nostalgic, we might watch a romantic comedy so everybody can watch me cry. Can none of you hear me? I missed every word you said after. I would put an F word in front of awesome. I'll focus on very strong F words. All I said after the F word was, in my belief system, I think there's a lot worse words out there than the F word. There is a lot worse words out there than the F word. I think words like can't and I cannot are far worse words than saying fuck or shit. Because I think when we tell ourselves we can't, that is way more detrimental to our lives than ever using a word like the F word to describe anything. And again, that's my belief system. Some people are going to have different belief systems. That's fine. I just know for myself and from what I've seen with people who have experienced the word can't, tell themselves they can't, or have been told they can't, have been caused a lot more pain than they have when they try to say something like, I'm fucking awesome. That little bit of discomfort they might get from saying a swear word is nowhere near as painful as it is when they hear I can't or I cannot. Good questions, guys. Keep those questions coming. Keep them coming. How do you deal with a situation where you love each other so much, but because of the differences you have to let go of one of your biggest dreams? So, this comes down to a matter of values again. This comes down to a matter of values, and what is being valued is the differences are being valued over more than the love. I think if we were to put love as our highest value, oftentimes two people are able to overcome differences and create an amicable situation where both people in the relationship are able to work towards their biggest dreams. Without knowing the specifics of what you're saying, that's the best I can give you, and kind of a specific but vague response. It's when love is our highest value, and I think a lot of times we're not focusing on that. Instead, we're focusing on the differences and making that more of a value than love. Again, we like to romanticize things and say we're so in love, we love each other so much, and I'm not saying you're not. But we like to do that, and in doing so, we sweep under the rug the things that we're really focusing on more. If we focus on the love more than the differences, there's always a way, I believe, to be able to figure out how we can overcome those differences as a couple and make it possible for both of us to realize our dreams. Good questions. Keep them coming, guys. You guys have awesome questions. Is this helpful for you guys? Is this helpful? Any other questions? Get those little fingers moving. We got about 10 more minutes, unless you guys are good and you feel like you've gotten your share of me for the night. What is your, oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. What is your idea of a love-filled relationship? I mean, how do you picture yourself in marriage later in life? So, for me personally, my idea of a love-filled relationship is one where there's two people that are going to always assume the best. They're always going to assume the best in the other person. That they are not going to assume that the one person would purposely hurt them or do something disrespectful or whatever it is. They are going to assume the absolute best from each other, and that they're going to value and respect each other enough that whenever anything is bothering them or comes up, that they're going to come and talk to the person right away, will be willing to talk to each other right away about it, as opposed to mulling it over, are going to talk with their friends or going to read Cosmo or whatever the hell magazine there is to get a different opinion. That both of us will value each other enough to go right to one another and talk about things. And both of us will understand that when we're talking about things, it doesn't reflect on the other person. It just means that we care enough to say what's on our mind and not let it turn into something more. Notice in that description, I did not use a lot of words like love, romance, because love and romance, those things are my idea. That's where I feel love is in a relationship. If two people are doing that, I think that's a huge demonstration of love. And I think when those things are happening, there's going to be a lot more genuine romance happening. I think sometimes that romance can get to come up and it will be almost a distraction from some of the other things, or we use romance as a way to try to compensate. Valentine's Day is a perfect example. There is this enormous expectation that everybody's got to have Valentine's, everybody gives each other cards. I remember one year walking down the street on a Valentine's Day and seeing there was a line out the Hallmark store of all guys who were basically running there, panicking, getting the last minute cards, because if they didn't show up with their card or their flowers or whatnot, their wives, their girlfriends, or whomever they were fearful that they were going to think that they didn't love them, or whatever, right? I can't say that because I don't know those people. It's just me using it as an example. So that would be my example of what I would think a love-filled relationship would look like. What do you do when your sis is in a controlling relationship? It's hard not to do anything, but I can't say anything because her boyfriend brainwashes her against me. Will she have to learn herself? Yes, it's her relationship. It's not yours. And what you can do in the meantime is you can focus on your relationship with her. And you can love her and support her and be there for her in whatever way you feel is the most loving and supportive. Sometimes love is very challenging and we need to say things that people may not want to hear and we might be frightful of saying. And oftentimes that's the most loving act, as long as it's in your relationship. Her relationship with her boyfriend is her relationship. It's not yours. It's not yours. And you guys, one of the, I think, biggest relationship pitfalls we can get in is when we start meddling in other people's relationships and we start to make their relationships our own. We have a relationship with someone like our sister, our brother, whoever it is. Our responsibility is to them first and foremost. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Excuse me. And we need to be there as a support. We're not there to relate. We're not there to be in her relationship. We're there to help her, support her, love her in whatever way and however that looks. I understand it might pain us to see people that we love and care about in painful situations. It's them choosing to be there, though. At the end of the day, they are choosing to be there. So perhaps you start asking her some more empowering questions. Why are you choosing to be here? What do you get out of this? Is this really what you want? Those types of things. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. We got about 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. We could probably get 5 more questions in if I talk really fast. I think I'll have just enough water left. Just enough. What I think is really cool, just while you guys are typing questions, I love that we as a society has evolved so much that it is okay in this modern day and age that a decent sized guy like myself can sit here and talk with all you about things like romance and love, and we can have these discussions like this. Once upon a time, that was a stereotype that really kind of prevailed, right? It was not masculine or okay for guys to talk about feelings and emotions like this, right? It was big no-no. So I think it's so cool that we've come this far, that we're able to have these discussions like this. Questions. What do you guys got? Type. Oh, here we go. Love and romance is always the easy stuff. Let me start over. Reset. Love and romance is always the easy stuff. What you are talking about is the lasting stuff. Right on, Jesse. Oh, That was his feedback. Cool, thank you. So the focus for V-Day is based on romantic love. How does one being single fit into that spectrum to celebrate the holiday? You want my honest opinion? I really think that the focus of V-Day, I think the focus of Valentine is really more commercialism. I think that more than anything. I think the main focus of Valentine's Day is commercialism. I mean, it's perfect. We have this holiday from this saint that's supposed to be about love, and what better way to sell a shitload of chocolates and flowers and cards and everything else, and to boost the economy after I actually read this not too long ago. Somebody, I can't remember where it was, and they were saying, you know, the reason that we celebrate Valentine's Day, because we needed a way to generate revenue into the economy after Christmas, because there's Christmas and there's this huge amount of money that goes out, and then there was nothing after that until maybe Easter or something else. So we need to have another holiday that got people to spend money. So somebody came up and said, well, why not Valentine's Day? What greater way to generate money than to point the finger at people and say, if you don't buy chocolates or flowers for your sweetie, you do not love them, right? So I do not think the focus on Valentine's Day is romantic love. I think the focus on Valentine's Day is consumerism. With that being said, since people do talk about love with it, and love is associated with Valentine's Day, my suggestion to you is not pay attention to what society tells you you're supposed to pay attention to, because society's not here learning what you're learning, but instead focus on how you'd like to show yourself love that day. You know, my way of spending is I'm going to spend it with friends that I love and care about. I'm going to eat some food I love and care about. You know, I'm going to do things for myself, and I'm not even going to entertain the whole, you know, I'm not a couple. It means I don't have love or whatever. I'm going to think more, no guilt for me for not buying flowers or chocolates, right? I mean, really think about that. Think about logistically. Let's just step back and remove the whole hallmark of it and think about logistically. Valentine's Day. Why pick February 14th? Why? We could have picked, there's 365 days in the calendar. You got Christmas is locked in. You only have a few holidays that are universal around the world. You got Christmas Day, you got New Year's Day, and then what? You got Valentine's Day and Halloween, right? Why pick February 14th and have it be this global celebration? Look where it falls. It falls friggin' 45, 50 days right after Christmas. It is a perfect time to have people go on a spending spree. It gets people to go out and start spending money. And what better way to inspire that than to have it be about love and the act of you have to go and buy flowers, chocolates, cards, whatever it is for your significant other to show love. I mean, just think about that for a second and give yourself a break and just go and have fun and do something for yourself or do something with people you care about. Again, that's Jesse's opinion. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna say, whoa, you just lost me. That's totally my opinion. I can't remember exactly where I read that study from. I'll try to find it. But when I read it, I was like, aha, I knew it. Because I've been talking about how it was like the hallmarkization of the world for so long with this holiday. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, that was what I was looking for. What is the most important trait you would like to have in a partner? Again, it's gonna be communication. For me, it's communication and it's perspective. They're choosing to see me. They're always trying to see me in the best possible perspective. Even if I do something that might hurt them, even if I do something that upsets them, they're going to love and value me enough that they're going to communicate it with me right away. And they're going to see me in an empowering enough perspective that they're not going to assume that I did it maliciously, but I did it maybe unknowingly or whatever it was. And so they're going to value me enough in the relationship to start talking with me about it right away and explaining it so we can work through it and I can learn and grow from it. I've got a good one. I have been married for 15 years. On our wedding night, it sucked. How do you sort of find your spouse appealing after all this time? It's a great question. And the answer is you have to look for what made him appealing in the first place, him or her appealing in the first place. You have to look for what made them appealing in the first place. And then you have to look for things that will make it more appealing. You have to do some research. You have to communicate. You have to be willing to communicate with your spouse about things that will make it more appealing. You know, there's those books, 50 Shades of Grey, that were so popular because so many people were like, "Ah, this is sexual liberation." And I cannot tell you how many couples I've talked to where the females in it read this book and it was just like, oh, and then the guys didn't want to read it, and the women were upset about it. And I was thinking, hey, you guys, like, this is a red light. Your ladies are trying to tell you something, right? But they didn't want to read it. So you need to communicate to them why you'd want them to read something like that, why they're going to dig more. So if you want to find him more appealing, him or her more appealing, you need to first look for the things that made them appealing to you in the first place. And then you have to figure out what appeals to you and bring that into the relationship through communication. Talk to them, let them know, tell them why it's important, tell them what it does for you, all those types of things. What is the most important trait you like in a partner? Did you just hear me? I just said that one. We have time for 2 more questions. And what I said for the most important trait in the partner was just communication, and that they would only see me in the most empowering perspective possible. They wouldn't assume the worst. They wouldn't assume something bad if I did something mean and malicious, or if I did something not mean and malicious. They wouldn't assume that what I did was mean and malicious, that it was just me not thinking or whatever it was. And then they'd value and love me enough to immediately talk to me about it and not hold it in and not muddle over it and turn it into something more. I do love my husband, but sometimes it's like he's afraid to think of the future and picture himself as a daddy. How do I deal with this? I want to seem happy because I love him very much, but I also want a baby with him. When couples make that transition to talking about kids, both people need to be on the same page. And men and women can be equally resistant to it. There can be I was just talking to a buddy the other day about him wanting kids and his wife not necessarily being ready for it. So you make that transition by you gotta reinforce to them that they're not giving anything up, but what they're gaining. A lot of times people in a fearful place will feel like they're going to be giving up this, they're going to be losing this. And we focus on what we're giving up or what we're losing, that's all we're going to see. The focus instead has to be on what we're gaining. And that has to be the discussion, not what we're giving up. And then when the things come up where we might be giving up this, we might be giving up that, those have to be discussed and worked in. If he's afraid he's going to miss out on those guys' trips, you got to talk to him and say, hey, we can still make guys' trips work. Instead of doing 3 a year, you might be doing 2 a year, but you can still do guys' trips. It doesn't mean that has to change. And I still want to do my girls' trips. Okay, so you got to focus on what's being gained and not so much what's being lost. Okay, we got time for 2 more questions and we're going to wrap it up. Do you believe that it is important that each spouse add value to the relationship every day? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Relationships, you guys, are duality, and both people have to be putting forth effort. Does that mean that each person is putting forth equal effort every day? In a perfect world, yes. Do we live in a perfect world? No. Everybody's going to have off days. Everybody's going to have challenging days. Everybody's going to have a day that is not their best day. Everybody's going to have days where they're distracted and whatnot. So we're not always going to be putting forth equal effort, but we do need to put forth some effort, and that's where I think it's really powerful and helpful to work with your spouse and get crystal clear on what your values are and what your expectations are of each other in a relationship. Setting up a framework where, as a couple, you guys are carving out 10 minutes a day at whatever time, that no matter what, you're going to sit down and communicate. You're going to do it no matter what. There's no texting, there's no emailing, there's nothing. It's just you guys have to sit down and communicate. And having that be a precedent where there's things that are talked about. I think something like that is a really powerful way, and it helps to start creating that value adding to it. Because so many challenges in relationships boil down to communication. If we get the communication under control, we can really change the relationships. All right, you guys, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you found value in this. If you guys find yourselves too, I know there's a lot of relationship questions here. If you guys find yourself struggling with your relationships, you want to dig in it more, please send me an email. And this is something that I work through with clients with coaching all the time. I would love to help you guys dig into it more and get you to where you want to be in your relationship with yourself and your relationship with your spouse. If you guys enjoyed this video, you found value with it, please share it with your friends and family. It just helps me get my message out. And we'll do one of these again next month. You guys, I hope you guys had fun. Have an amazing night. Have an amazing rest of your week. And I will talk to you guys all soon. Okay, bye-bye.